This is gonna be one of the few videos that I do off the top of my head. Usually I try to read from my journal, but I really want to just speak from, I guess, from my heart or, just things that are on my mind. And the topic of today's video is just roll the dice. Take a chance on yourself. When everything is counting you out and it looks like you're being told no, counter that. Take a chance on yourself. You are so much more than the odds. The chances of you even being here in this moment right now are so unique and so low. And sometimes we take that for granted. I'm living such a unique experience, such a once in a life opportunity to experience life, to play this game, to just be able to, be whoever I want. And in this moment, it's not really clear who I'm supposed to be, but this is what I feel called to. And I want to show up here because this feels right. Sometimes when it's late at night and I'm all alone, and I have to make choices on staying the same person or making the same decisions over and over again, it's not always easy. Sometimes I fall, but I always get back up because I'm rooted with this belief that I can do anything I put my mind to. And sometimes it's difficult, and I'm going to be honest. I just want to show up every day and I want to, just keep working on the things that I feel called to because there's some part of me who is just meant to show up every single day and just, preach. And for anyone who feels like they're in some similar situation where they feel like there's no clear path on where to go or what you should do or who you should be, but you want to be someone different, just take a chance on yourself, roll the dice. Whatever it is that you feel called to, just show up, do the work. There's going to be a lot of moments where the world isn't watching. There's going to be a lot of moments when no one sees what you're doing. No one understands the sacrifices. You're going to be misunderstood and be willing to be misunderstood because a lot of people are afraid of being misunderstood. A lot of people don't want to be crazy. A lot of people don't want to be perceive in such a way where they're just different from everyone else, but be okay with that. You're not meant to always fit in. You're meant to stand out. And the beauty of life, and if you think about anyone you really admire, there's probably something that's different about them. And I encourage you to do that and be that person yourself. Don't give up on yourself even when you feel like there's no answer, and even when you feel like there's no way, there's no path. Show up. I know that I want to do amazing things in life, and I feel like I'm manifesting exactly what I am. So I need to really vibrate at that frequency where I'm exactly what I want, because I can't half-ass or pretend my way into receiving a life that I don't truly want. The universe will call me out on my bullshit. The universe knows who I am at my core, and I can't outsmart them. What I can do is manifest a life where I'm actually vibrating at what I say I am. And right now, even when things aren't looking the best, even when there's nothing happening, even when there's no conversation about who I am or what I do, I still feel like everything I am. I still feel like I'm that guy who is doing amazing things. I still feel like that guy who is helping so many people. I still feel like that guy who is, being talked about for, the kind of work that he's doing. I still feel like that guy. And even when there's nothing, even when there's no proof of what I see in my mind, I still feel like that person. And, it's my duty to show up every single day. I have this dream, and, I planted this seed, and, it will grow. It just needs time. And, I'm present in the moment, and, I'm enjoying every second passing by. And I look forward to becoming this person that I preach about. And, I'm one step closer. And I want to encourage other people that if you can see it here, you can have it here. There is no person who is going to stop you from receiving your blessings as long as you put in the work. If there's something you believe in, and if there's some cause you feel called to, like I said, just continue to show up, be yourself, and don't let the world get in the way of you being you. You are so unique, and you are so special in your own way, and you are so capable, and whatever the odds are, just say you are more unique than that. You are more unique than the odds. You are so much more than what's ever in your way, and you can amount to even more than you think. So whatever your baseline is, look past that. My baseline is so high, and I want to even find ways to surpass that. Right now the world might not know who I am, and I'm completely fine with that because I feel at peace with who I am, and what I want to do, and it doesn't change anything whether the whole world's watching or whether the whole world isn't. I still feel like there's going to be something, some way, somehow, everything's going to fall into place. It's just my job to take action, and one day preparation will meet opportunity. It's just getting in the habit of just staying ready, and just being prepared for whenever that moment happens. And I look forward to that day. I feel ready, and sometimes I say that, and I still do things that I no longer want to do. I still show up as someone I no longer want to be, and sometimes I still feel tied to a routine that no longer represents me as a person. But I still do all the good things. I still wake up with the right mindset, and I still try and get the workout, and show up as this new person, and preach to others that they are also capable. So I'm working towards everything I say I am, and I'm not really anxious or worried about how things work out because I don't know how they work out, but I know that they will, and I'm so confident in that. And I just really feel like sometimes you might get caught up in where you're at, and you might kind of lose sense of direction, but if it isn't growing you, it's just a moment that's dead, and you need to let go of that. So not only am I giving advice to other people, but I'm giving advice to myself. And I want to affirm to you or anyone watching, I want to affirm to myself and anyone watching that it's possible. Whether you believe it or not, whatever you want is possible. And you need to hold that very close to your heart. Feeling is the most important thing you'll ever need in success. If you feel successful with nothing, then it'll make receiving everything else so much easier. When you walk like you're successful, it'll make it all easier. When you move like you're successful, it'll make every move, every plan, every idea come so much easier. So I say this all the time. Focus on what the person you're trying focus on whoever you're trying to become. Focus on the work they do instead of what they receive, because one day you will receive what they receive. And like I said, it might not be today, it might not be tomorrow, it might not be next week, it might not be next month, it might not be next year, but one day you will receive the fruits of your labor, and it's just a matter of when. And something I tell myself is I already have it. I already have it. I'm not delaying any blessing. I'm not delaying any success. I already have it. I am everything that I say I am. I am everything that I want to be. and I've already done everything that I wanted to do in this life. It's just a matter of moments leading up to that moment. But I already am that person. So, I have these thoughts in my mind, and, they've never left me. These are things and values that just sit at the core of my heart, and it's deeply rooted in my mind, and I can't get rid of it. So, I'm no longer going to run away from who I am. I'm no longer going to run away from what I'm being called to. And, as much as I don't think, or as much as I once thought I wasn't worthy for this kind of work, or, this plate of prophecy, I like to say, it's meant for me. And, I'm worthy of it. So I'll take it because it's mine. And I'll continue to show up, do the work, and, do the work off camera as well. I also have to work on myself, and I want to encourage you to do the same thing. You're going to mess up. Sometimes you won't feel like you're worth whatever you preach or whatever you envision in your mind, but don't sell yourself on loose thoughts. If it's not oil to your fire, get rid of it. You can do anything and everything. You are capable, you are worthy, and you are the standard now. So don't be confused. Don't lose your vision just because you had a couple clouds or some fog in the way. It's all gonna work out. You just gotta walk through it and know that you are ready now. Nothing is gonna get in the way of what you want besides yourself. And sometimes we might confuse ourselves, or kind of gaslight ourselves into thinking that what we think is too big, or not realistic, and in a way out of our league. That's false delusion. If you're gonna be delusional in a way where you can change your life. Don't be don't be delusional in a way where you're ruining your life. Be delusional in a way that is abundance. Be delusional in a way that is life changing for not only you but people around you. So I'm ready. I really feel it, and I just need to constantly show up as I'm ready. And like I said, I already feel like I'm everything I say I am, or everything that I say I want to be. So it's just a matter of time. And I feel like my purpose is bigger than any fear I have of failing. I think the way I perceive failure is a little different. I don't think that trying and not getting what you want is failing, but I'm going to put in the energy, I'm going to put in the effort, and eventually everyone will see what I was aiming for. I'm going to continue to throw the darts at the wall, and, eventually I'll stick because I trust myself, and I trust the unknown to work in a beautiful way. It always has. I've always been placed in the right place at the right time. And, every single moment I'm so grateful for, because it's teaching me not only about myself, but about how blessed I am. So, and how great everyone else is in this world. Everyone has been correctly placed, and, every single person I've met has taught me the right lesson. So, like I said, I'm ready, and I encourage you to, get ready. Like I said, one day preparation will meet opportunity, and you will be granted every single thing you want. You just need to stay ready, and you need to be convinced and, obsessed with this idea that you can do anything you put your mind to. And I don't want you to ever be discouraged or ever, manipulate yourself into thinking that you can't, because there is power in what you say. There is identification in what you say, and you must not let yourself confuse yourself with who you're trying to be. Like I said, if you're going to be delusional in a way that screams abundance. Be delusional in a way that screams life changing, not only for you, but for other people around you. You can rework your whole bloodline. You can rework a whole generation ahead of you. You can change your children's lives. You can change your children's lives. You can do so much, and you can probably infect other minds with the same idea, and there can be a domino effect with their kids and a lot of other families. So don't be afraid to be you. Don't be afraid to pursue something just because the world tries to tell you it's too big. You are capable, you are worthy, and like I said, you are the standard now. Do not confuse yourself. Do not manipulate yourself into dreaming too small. Dream as big as you want. Have ambition and faith like a child, and just show up. And I promise you, you will receive what you are meant to receive. If it's willed for you, you will receive it. And no human, no person, no event can get in the way if you are true to what you are speaking out to the universe. If you are vibrating at it, it is already yours. And like I said, I am ready, and I hope you are too. Roll the dice on yourself. Today is your day.